try to be your host. Hopefully, it will go well. So just a couple of housekeeping items. One is we are recording this session and streaming live, and the session will be available on the town website, so you can watch it again. And with that, when you have questions, please let me know so I can bring the microphone to you. So that way we don't need to repeat the questions and everyone could hear that. Tonight, our goal is really to provide you information about solar project that we are embarking on. And target is the municipal land, very loudly nickname is Gravel Pit. So we have been talking about that at the, through HEAC discussions, Harvard Energy Advisory Committee, and also there were multiple presentations to the Select Board. So we are at a point that the town meeting, May 2nd, is approaching. So we are at a point that we might be able to make this project happen. But in parallel to that, as we were working on mechanics of it and also legal aspects of it, then we are at a point that we are engaging with town and with you, with the residents and others, to get your feedback. And at the end of the day, nothing will happen if we don't get your approval during the town meeting. But between now and then, we have so many things to put in place. Hence, we are at a point that we are starting to communicate with you. So with that, let me quickly introduce my partners in crime. My first crime partner is my chair. Just made it. Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate. And Kara has been in this conversation and has been supporting greatly since the beginning, for sure. And Adam Meyer, Adam, could you raise your hand? Okay. So he is with the finance committee, and we pulled him in early on into this project, so we make sure that the financials will add up. And when we go to the town meeting, we're going to get support from the finance committee. So it was very critical. And Adam has been driving the financial model, and because we are looking at multiple options. So we want to make sure that what makes sense, buy, lease, or what type of lease. So we are still in the process of finalizing those numbers. We haven't, presented anything to finance committee or the select board yet, but we are coming close to, shortlisting a couple of options that we can present the select board and then the town. And then for sure, as you are aware that, Harvard Energy Advisory Committee, HEAC, has been driving many wonderful decarbonization activities, projects, electrification projects, in town for many, many years. So really this came about HEAC's, the foundation put by HEAC and also a Climate Initiative Committee. So they really built the path. And this year we had the opportunity to go through that path and, brought the project to this maturity level. So HEAC Chair Brian Smith has been the, main driver behind this, spearheading this activity, and with his committee members as listed. In addition to that, Gravel Pit project, we are working with our partner in crime, also a company called Select Energy. And we invited our liaison with the Select board, Byron Woodman. He is the senior director with the company. And he has worked in other projects for us in town, such as elementary school rooftop solar project, and also you work in this building. So, they deliver these projects for us. So there is a really already know-how on both sides. So there's a trust relationship here. And we'll also talk about another entity, power options, and how it fits into this equation. So our goal tonight really is to present you what the project is about, what we are trying to achieve, more importantly, why we are trying to do. And then what are some timing considerations we have, and with that, where we are on that. Once we go through that, and I will hopefully at one point, since I became a politician, I'm talking, but sooner than later, I'll give the microphone to Brian, and he will take us through this text, and we will kind of tag team, we'll answer certain questions. So the way that we structure this presentation will take you through the concept and what we are trying to do, explain different aspects of it, including financial structure, different sizes of the solar farm that we are contemplating. And then we also put together what are the type of questions typically residents ask when we build a solar farm in a given small town. So we compiled some of those. Again, it would capture some of your questions, and there is no way that we will be able to answer everything potential tonight. And also that's why I requested Byron to come here, then he can also answer some questions. But we are looking at this as a two-way information exchange. We'll present you something, and then we'll hear some of the questions we'll answer. Otherwise, we'll take those in, and then we'll get back to you. Our main commitment is we'll do this together as a town. Nothing will happen without you. So with that, and before I start crying again, emotional, I will request Brian.
This doesn't work, right?
It works, actually. Try that, and I'll use it for the question.
Can you hear me? Oh, wow. Okay, hi, I'm Brian Smith, from the chair of the Energy Advisory Committee for a long time, and we have a lot of slides, which means we need to move it along so that we can hear from you. But the purpose of the slides is to show you that this is a long journey, and there's a lot of background to it. So we want to make sure everybody understands where we're coming from and how this project fits in. The first piece is just a reminder about the commitments. If you go back to the previous slide, about the commitments as a town we've made in 2021 and 22 was the Climate Initiative Committee and the Climate Action Plan. That Climate Action Plan, the majority of the relevant pieces of it for this project is the electrification of the buildings and the renewables source for municipal electricity. And then in 2025, we became a climate leader. And as part of that, it was a decarbonization plan that we made a commitment to also electrify the larger buildings. So those are the town meeting votes for major pieces that have contributed to where we are today. The key drivers I mentioned about electrification, that also includes electrifying the source where our electricity comes from. And so that is a key piece as a town that we are working toward. I should also state that the Energy Committee the charter has always been to reduce energy use, cost, and emissions. So this is every project that we do usually hits on one or more of those three pieces. Of course, when we reduce energy use, we also reduce cost and emissions, and this project is a combination of those three. The ideal solar project is on premise. So for example, this building or the elementary school. And this project is significant because of the size. We cannot come close to this type of size of project on a building, a rooftop. So that's what's significant about it. And also the revenue and the cost stabilizing piece of it. That's the third item. And then I mentioned revenue streams. A project like this has land lease payments, payment in lieu of taxes, which is a fairly small one, and then potential off-taker payments. So that means if we don't use all the electricity from that project, we can sell it to other sources. And a key piece, number 5, on the drivers is that every project that we do, we want to use grant money or other sources of funding to reduce the cost to the town and reduce taxes overall for the taxpayers. So in this case, really critical that we're moving ahead with it at this time because of both the state and the federal incentives we're trying to take advantage of. Again, I'm not going to cover every word on every slide, but this speaks to the benefit that I mentioned about stabilizing the low-cost electricity for the town, and also supporting our overall town clean energy commitments. We are looking at, for the financial piece of it, we're looking at either what we have called a power purchase agreement or a credit purchase agreement, which is what was done in both the Council on Aging and the elementary school, which means no capital outlay for the town, and that is more of a lease type of arrangement. And the other option we're looking at is a direct ownership. So there's a lot of pros and cons between the two. I would have thought that at one point in time that a town like ours, we would not want to lay out any funds for it, but there's a lot of financial benefits to a direct purchase, and you have to take the pros and cons of both. And then I think we covered that, but the real advantage now is that the state solar program they created a new program at the end of 2025, and that's a real benefit that wasn't available in the past. And then the other piece is the investment tax credit expiring very quickly on the federal level. Some more details about this specific project. It's referred to as a gravel pit, and we're looking at 2 different sizes. Both the larger project would be a 3 megawatt, and a smaller one would be a 1.5 megawatt. The advantage of the larger project is what I had mentioned before, is that anything that we would not take advantage of, we would be able to sell as revenue to get more money for the town. And the smaller project has a little bit different tax incentives and increased state tax incentive under the SMART program. One key thing about those 2 models, about direct ownership versus a credit purchase agreement, is that in a credit purchase agreement, there's no outlay from the town, but we have to, in this case, Select, they would be responsible for developing the project, installing the project, and also the operations and maintenance through the entire term of the project, which would be 20 years. And if we are directly purchase ourselves, then we have to hire another company to do the operations and maintenance. Can you see that picture up in the upper right? That is challenging. That is the layout of the gravel pit on that parcel, right? A better slide, yeah, okay. We covered most of the items on here. This is just a little more specifics that I mentioned that investment tax credit, the state SMART program. And this is stating that it's a 13.4 acre site, and for the larger system, you would need 7 acres. There are some details have not been worked out. This project's in the planning stage. Select has laid out those 2 options and about the overall size of for each size, the overall land that would be needed for each size of a system. The total would be, like I said, it's approximately 3 megawatt or 1.5 megawatt. That's the best way to look at it. And then if battery size would be 750 kilowatt.
Just if I will make this
Right.
Big is a 750 kilowatt battery? Like, is that size of a house? Is that size of a Toyota Corolla?
It's probably about the size of an Eagle trailer. I mean, a
Yeah.
little bit smaller than an Eagle trailer.
It's kilowatt hours, isn't it?
What's that?
Kilowatt hours instead of kilowatts.
Kilowatt is the capacity of the battery, and then kilowatt hours is the dispatch of the battery. So when we size a system, when we size a battery for a solar system, it's based on the capacity of the battery. And then as we look to monetize the value of that at different times into the grid, that's measured in kilowatt hours.
So you're saying that these batteries would dispense as much as 750 kilowatts at once?
Yeah, a continuous flow of 750 kW for the duration of that battery.
One item we didn't discuss yet is power options. That's a state organization, an organization in the state that we've worked with, that we are a member of as a town of Harvard. And they had a process where they have pre-vetted developers for this type of project. That's how we were connected with Select Energy. And they, when I said pre-vetted, they went out on a statewide RFP, and they went through a bid process and selected Select out of that bid process. And so the reason why that's important for us is that we don't have to go through that process, but Power Options manages all of the details of the finances. So they have to meet certain criteria, and I don't know if you want to explain any further about that, but that's the fact that it's been pre-vetted and they have to adhere to certain pricing
Elements, yeah, so the way that, not to go too deep on it, but Power Options is a consortium that was started under Mass CEC and serves nonprofits and municipalities. And through that program, they issued an RFP probably about 12 years ago, and 14 different companies bid in. Select was one of the vendors, and we were selected as the vendor of choice under that program. And since then, they've had multiple additional, RFPs for that we've had to, again, reapply for. And what we'll essentially do is we'll engage with a community or a nonprofit based on a specific award and framework that is allowable under the Power Options program and consistent with our award. And then they audit us for each project that we do. And under mass procurement, this is a mechanism which enables municipalities and school districts to buy directly, solar directly through this program instead of doing their own RFP program. So it's part of the overall town procurement.
And if I may chime in just briefly, important thing for us is, number one, the procurement, that we are in line with the MGL. The other part is very important. Contract terms and the pricing are already pre-vetted, so that we are comfortable that we are getting, good pricing, because they cannot really increase their return on investment on a given project beyond whatever is permitted through the Power Options relationship. Hence, it gives us not just the reliability, but also confidence from the financial point of view, without going through 55 different RFPs on our end.
I'll also say, just in terms of experience, we've built over 600 projects. We're based in Hopkinton, Mass. Almost all the projects, or the majority of them, are all in Massachusetts. I live in Concord. We're all from Massachusetts and developed, committed to developing locally. So thought I'd mention that.
Is there anything you want to say on this one?
So I mean, we've been in business for over 15 years. Again, 800 projects. We've done probably close to 150 for municipal projects. Most of the people on the team have been in the industry for a very long time. I've been in the industry for a couple decades at this point. 23 battery projects. And one thing that I would mention is we do have, and Brian had mentioned, you know, the possibility if Harvard owns the system directly, having a group maintain and serve it. And that's one of the things that's unique about Select is we have a services team as well as the development team. And so we manage all the systems that we build, and then we can dispatch to them all the energy that is generated goes online and is tracked and measured. And then we can dispatch vehicles from Hopkinton to manage each of those systems. So.
Thank you. Okay, under financing options, I did explain it briefly. A few other details that I didn't cover. One is that the life of these systems, we're looking at 20 years. That's, we're pretty much fixed on that, I think, at this point.
Yep.
And another item, which is actually exists at the elementary school, is that there's, with a credit purchase agreement option, there is, with a credit purchase agreement, there is an option to for the town to purchase the system at specific years. So in this case, at year 7, we could, if we didn't go with a direct purchase, we could go with a credit purchase agreement and then buy it at year 7. So that is an option that we have. I think, anything else on this?
Yeah, do you mind if I just add one point? So I just want to add a point on the lifespan of the system. So Brian mentioned that the lifetime of the system is kind of expected to be at least 20 years. That can be different than the potential financing approach that the town takes. We have the option of leasing it for a longer or shorter period of time. So, you know, max we would assume 20 years, but we could also lease it for a 15-year period, in which at the end, Select would either be positioned to sell that kind of depreciated asset to the town, given that it would have additional useful life. Is that right? So those are options that we're looking at. We're looking at the various financial benefits and overall kind of picture of what would best position the town during that time period. Thanks.
Could you ballpark with the increasing cost of what we're paying for energy now? I don't know what the town's contract is. What kind of savings we'd be looking at per kilowatt?
I don't think that's in the, is it in the presentation?
Community choice is at, the community choice is at 18 cents an hour, but that's for regular customers. And then, of course, fees and taxes and all that for all of us is added on to that, making the total cost somewhere around 26 cents. But for the town, we can find that out with the unit cost.
My understanding was that one of the reasons for doing this is to get the cost stabilized and to save money on electrical costs. There must be some ballpark that we can.
Yep. I'm just pulling up the
So
current spreadsheet.
while we are pulling that up, if you look at high level, you know, if you 3 megawatt system versus 1.5, and if we assume that we are going to do 20-year CPA, our current we are targeting municipal expense. So our municipal spend is around $430,000 annually. So we believe that 3 megawatt system would give us around $120,000 savings, and those numbers that Adam is going through. With the 3 megawatt, our production will be less than what we utilize today, but the savings will be again within that vicinity. So what the goal is, we are not going to be able to compensate 100% of our municipal spend, but at least without spending any investment dollars, we'll be able to sustain around 25% or so our municipal demand. Now, the key thing to look at that, Bruce, you brought a good point. One is our municipal demand is increasing by 2050. I think numbers that HIAC is using, 60% increase on our usage. So we are around 2.4 megawatts hour type usage today. So 60% increase. So demand is increasing, and plus the electricity per kilowatt cost also is increasing. So with that, we have double jeopardy. And sincerely, I'm not trying to be political, but everything going on around the globe here, an impact on the oil, everything. So we are going to see more increase on energy prices for a long time. So this is a mechanism that for us, can we at least, compensate certain portion of our spending? So that is the really key point of this project. And the numbers that, Adam, did I tell the truth, but the whole truth, but nothing else here?
At least as far as we know at this point. Still working on the models, but yes.
Great, thank you. Bruce, did it answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think it's important for people to know what the savings are.
No, we appreciate it.
I mean, because I think the financial reason for doing this is one of your primary reasons.
Agreed. Financials and also our electrification goals and climate goals.
I also just want to quickly add that we're also very conscious of the potential uses of the parcel, and there are multiple potential uses of the parcel. So, that's something that we're all conscious of and evaluating within this. We might not be able to put a financial value on all of them immediately, but that is something that we are working to, integrate into the town's analysis. So any input on that is also very much welcome.
I think one other aspect of it was also to provide some, as you alluded to, some stability and moderation, predictability, that we sign the contract of how much it's going to be per kilowatt hour for the town for the, a next period of time of the contract. And the other piece is if it's the larger system and there's a marginal difference between what we're using and what we have the capacity for, we can sell that energy back and make money.
Can you describe the financing option that we currently enjoy with this building and with Hildreth?
So for this building, you own the system. Oh, sorry. This building, the town owns the system directly. So for each kilowatt hour that's created here, the town owns it, and it just offsets what your bill would be. For Hildreth, it's a power purchase agreement where we finance the system and then selling the electricity to the town at a long-term discounted rate.
Is there a reason why the two installations used different financing options?
It had to do with the size of the system and the appetite of the town. I mean, this system here is about 63 kW, and Hildreth is over 200, so it's just a different dollar point and what the town wanted to do at that point. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question about the technology of the solar panels and the space they take up. So have you seen the technology change over time where you don't need as much space to take up more power?
So the technology is improving over time, and the capacity and the electricity that comes from each module is improving over time. Part of that has to do with the energy density per square foot of the module, and part of it is the actual module is just increasing in frame size. So it's a combination of the size and the energy density that you're getting more energy per module. That said, the base technology, which includes the racking, the location, the shading, the adsmith, all of that is probably been the same since the 1970s or 40s, whenever like the technology first started to begin. But one of the aspects too is that the technology on the computer side is getting smarter and smarter in terms of the inverters, in terms of how the energy is integrated to the grid, and the regulations around that. So it's a combination of technology that's been around forever and then incrementally improving it. There's a thought that sometimes, well, geez, like maybe we'll just wait long enough until the technology improves to a point where it's like you need half the space or a quarter of the space. And we're not seeing technology radically change the footprint that much. We're seeing incremental improvements over time.
On your financial model, did you look at the long-term construction, operation, maintenance, and replacement? In other words, these systems begin to lose efficiency over time. Maybe start from day one, start to lose efficiency. But you're going like 7 years out, the town decides, well, we'll take over. The efficiency had dropped down to a certain point. Now the town is responsible for operation, maintenance, and replacement. So the battery, all the panels, the system, how much replacement cost do you have built into the model? So in other words, a life cycle cost analysis is necessary. Otherwise, the benefits may not outweigh the cost over 20 years. After 7,
yeah.
But after 20, it may not.
It's a really good question. So there's different warranties for different components. So the 20-year warranty on the panels. So in year 20, you have the guarantee that it's going to be generating 80% of what it did in year 1. So these panels can go out a long time. No moving parts. You put them there and they're pretty much good to go. The inverters, you do need to change out over time. And so the model includes, an inverter replacement. Typically that would happen between years 12 and 14. And I think we included it as year 10 in our models. And so that's one piece of it. The battery, if we did the larger system, the battery would be included as part of that, and there would be like a recharging as part of that economics as well too. So it depends on the component. And then obviously the racking that's there, that's just there. Doesn't get changed out. So.
But the model also reflects that reduced efficiency over time, right?
Oh yeah. You see a slight degradation over time for sure. Yep.
Great. So rather than showing you a massive spreadsheet that is still in progress, we wanted to just pull out a couple of the highlights of potential pros and cons or benefits and challenges of some of the different permutations that we're looking at. So a lot of this Brian's already mentioned, at least in part, if not in full. But I'll just reiterate. The 1.5 megawatt system has some advantages from an installation time frame that would make accessing federal tax incentives a bit easier. It gives us a bit more of a bandwidth for installation. The state incentive is slightly higher at that smaller system size as well. And it also requires a smaller portion of the gravel pit land parcel. So as we're looking at potential additional or alternative uses, that's one of the considerations there. However, it would produce less than 100% of the town's electrical demand. municipal electrical demand, yes, important, but approximately 75%. It doesn't account for that 60% growth that Brian's modeled out to 2050. The 3 megawatt system would produce significantly above that current electrical demand by the town. And we would have the option of selling off the excess generation until we needed it, and then we could use that. Again, there's kind of added complexities once we go to the larger system size for tax credit utilization. It also kind of is at a size threshold where National Grid, the interconnection process and permitting gets a bit more complex. So the smaller system size is a little easier to move through, but doable. It just has kind of uncertainty around the time horizon for that. And the excess electricity that's generated and would be sold would be at a lower benefit than if the town was using it directly. And that's just because we would need to create some incentive for, whether it's Stowe or Air or, whatever neighboring town that is interested in it for them to purchase it. But I will note that if we lease it, Select can manage that resale process directly, and so they can, take on a 10-year offtake agreement with one of those towns. That's just an example number. Or Harvard can manage it directly. Pros and cons to either. Again, the 3 megawatt would require, 7 acres. That's also not accounting for the setback requirements from the edges of the property. So, all in, both systems would require kind of larger than the 7 acres or the 3.5 acres in terms of kind of demand on that actual parcel.
How much clearing is required?
I believe it's a 100-foot setback from the edge. The battery, looking at a 750 kilowatt hour battery, it would be managed by a third party. It would be kind of charged during lower demand portions of the day, and you basically realize revenue by discharging that battery when there's peak demand, because National Grid would pay a higher rate per kilowatt hour put back onto the grid. So that's an additional revenue opportunity that we haven't gotten kind of full numbers on yet.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's a simple one. Go with the smaller amount to start with. And down the road, you get better rebates and whatever incentives you get. And then in the future, you find out, well, we could use some more, and there's a benefit to doing that. The technology's better. You can get maybe more efficient, so you expand it to the 3, the double size. At that point, not now, but when you see the need for it coming down the road, you can install it. I don't think that would be too difficult to just, put new panels in, new battery, whatever you need to do to get up to the full amount. Maybe not quite that much, maybe something less, depending what the future demand is.
I think that's a really important point. I think one of the motivators for considering the larger system up front really has to do with the presence of the financial incentive of the federal tax credit. It's 30% of the total project costs, which is significant. And so whether it's through the lease or the ownership model, that ends up being a really meaningful portion. But I think your point is very well taken, that technology advances, the town increase in electricity demand is going to be nonlinear as well. So we can't we're modeling it, but we're not kind of confident about maybe a huge chunk of that happens 5 years from now or 15 years from now. So I think your point's well taken.
I like the idea of an incremental approach also. That's the first that I've heard of it, and makes sense to do it in, gradual steps. But just to go back to the actual system itself, I'm not so sure, I don't understand what the footprint is of even the 1.5 megawatt. I mean, what is the footprint, and what's this, the buffer, shade buffer? And then, what did you call the settlement, or there's a setback?
So this is kind of a blend of Solec's initial depiction of the 3 megawatt system. Thanks, Ahmet. So this is the depiction of the 3 megawatt system. I'll just note that the scale of the images are not equal. This one shows the vast majority of the parcel, but if you look at like this line, that's here. So the top portion's kind of not represented fully in this one. And this is indicative of the setback requirements. And because the lighting is off, I'll just kind of outline where the 1.5 megawatt system would approximately be installed. Is that helpful?
Chunk of land. It is really a big chunk of land that's really environmentally sensitive.
Dumb question, does that start where it opens up? Like if you ever walk on the gravel pit, like it opens up like at the end of the road, is that where all these are starting, or are they further back than that?
So this image shows a little bit better. I think it's time of when the satellite image was taken. Some of the gravel pit land area, the sand there. And this is kind of shrub early growth.
There's also a ton of knotweed back there. Have you considered that, like, gonna grow over where the solar panels are? Like, there's a bunch of probably mitigation to get rid of all that knotweed, so it actually not impact performance.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Byron's team is well-versed in ensuring that construction is addressing, invasive species and rapid growth. And because of having a operations and maintenance contract, whether it's with Solect or otherwise, that would certainly be a portion of it. Yeah.
What's the shade buffer? What does it mean to have a shade buffer?
It's just I guess there's two aspects to it. One is the setback from neighboring or adjoining properties, and then the other piece specifically related to shade is looking at how the trees directly to the south, east, and west, and the elevation of those would change the production from the system. So there's a shade analysis that we do, and then there's also the required setbacks that we incorporate into it.
You'd be cutting down the trees in order to make sure that there's no shade?
Well, there would definitely be clearing. I mean, just based on the way that the lot is now, there would definitely have to be clearing to install, a system of that size. And then we would not be clearing, obviously, in the setback areas. So that's part of what we would be, considering as part of the development of the project.
Is that accurate that the boundary of the system is not the boundary of the solar panels?
Oh, yeah, I mean, so like behind Adam, you can see where the trees exist. And it's, we would not be removing those trees. We would be having the fenced-in area, and then there's probably even some setback from within the fence that you'd be able to like walk around. But we would be looking at how the trees surrounding the project would, affect the production over the term. The fence goes, it's that red line that goes directly around the project. So it's a fully fenced-in system.
Need to level that area out in order to...
It wouldn't be 100% level, but it would be cleared.
Well, but there's quite a drop-off there. When you get into the gravel pit itself, and then there's quite an elevation there.
Yeah.
For a point of reference, if you're driving out towards Leominster, just past the Toyota dealership, there's a really big utility scale solar project, and it's on a hill that kind of has really steep angles. But it's situated in a way where the solar panels are on a ground-mounted system, kind of directing them at the right angle to maximize efficiency. And so you can still make those installations just by differing the heights of the legs on it, and install it on undulating landscapes.
And that blue, is that the storage of the battery, and then what's that line indicate, that aqua blue line
That's the connection back up to the Stowe Road.
to the street? So is it gonna be like poles?
Poles.
On the ground?
No, I mean, just based on the wetlands on either side of that little gravel road that goes in, we would
So
be,
I'm gonna have poles in front of, as I look at from my living rooms, I'm gonna see poles.
it would be probably a handful of,
Like the silver.
no, like regular street utility electric poles.
I was under the impression, Carl, that it was underground.
I thought it was underground, like it's Stowe Road, that's where the National Grid had told us the conduit was.
If that's approved, I mean, we haven't completed wetland studies, we haven't completed, I mean, typically we will do underground conduits.
How many poles are proposed?
I don't know that that's been finally engineered, but I would be guessing probably 7 poles down the road. And again, it has not, that level of engineering hasn't been completed, but that's the
With all due
concept.
respect, you guys, we're talking about, I'm asking a specific question because I abut that. I'm looking at those poles. We're talking July 4th, we gotta dig in, we got setbacks. It seems like you're rushing in order to gain incentives without asking all of the questions. How is this impacting the community that lives there? It's a big deal. I was at one of your meetings earlier, and I know, I've been here for 23 years. The conversations about affordable housing, all of that. So I know that it's valuable land. But a comment from one of your team members, council members, was, well, the Affordable Trust Group, maybe they can buy, we can build, but would you really want to live there next to a solar garden? This is from someone on your committee. Discoverable. So now this is your committee at work, and here's your neighborhood. We have a committee member that's saying affordable and solar don't mix. But now you have all of us who are abutting, but we have to look at it. I think you guys are rushed.
Just on the access road, wouldn't there be buffer trees along that road, as we see on this picture?
There's no live trees on that buffer road really right now. It's like a
Nothing.
swamp.
Okay.
We've got other places where we put buffer trees.
Yeah, it would not be big silver poles, though. I mean, I get your message, I 100% get your message, but and the other piece of it, though, too, is getting back to you with exactly how many poles there would be, what kind there would be.
Can I-
You got ecosystems, you got trees, you got property values. We moved here, right? You know, we got property values. Like statistics, I mean, we did a survey, a study. I mean, we're doing constant spending millions of dollars figuring out that if commercial can do something on Air Road, and we can't figure that piece out. But yet you guys are ready to just put it on the town warrant, get your submission in by February 2nd so it can appear in the town warrant before you guys have even had a conversation with the community.
May I
And
offer something?
Just 1 second. And then in terms of the value, does Select have a historical view on our depreciate, what's the impact? Yeah. Have you guys, because it's, obviously it's not, I'm supportive of renewable energy, but I'm not supportive of a rushed approach.
So,
From what I'm hearing, I am an abutting property as well. And I didn't come to this community to find out that down the line, I'm gonna have a solar system right behind me. And I don't know, I did miss some, I apologize, I had to be elsewhere. And I have significant concerns for what is it gonna look like? When is this being done? Who is the ultimate people making a decision for all of the abutting properties? And you guys who are making the decision, you don't live there. So you're not gonna have to worry about what we're gonna have to deal with. Sounds fair to me. Well, no, I'm on the abutting property. I am for solar energy, but I believe we, as abutting property owners, need to have all of the information laid out in advance, along with the studies. What about impact on the animals? We have bears, we have a mountain lion that's in the area, I did see one, but the bobcat, deer everywhere, and foxes, and then other smaller animals. Yeah, and so now you're gonna have lights that are gonna be shining everywhere. I would like to know the full layout and options and the ramifications, what's gonna happen down the line when and if somebody else takes the lease to do the property, to run it on the solar system. What happens at the end of the lease? Who's responsible for the cleanup? What's gonna happen if they don't wanna renew the lease? These are all viable, important information that needs to be known in advance before you even start on this project to say that, hey, we want to do the solar system because we know it's gonna help the town.
I can answer some of those questions. Just, there aren't lights. And in terms of the decommissioning at the end of the project, it's the equivalent of a property lease for a term of 20 years. And there's a bond that's required to enable us, that would be required to remove the system at the end of the term. So the default position is at the end of 20 years, the system is removed, unless Harvard elects to either buy the system directly or renew it. But those are just a couple quick answers to your question. I know you have more, but that's, I don't know if Adam.
I think the other thing, also being really new, is the noise, which I'm just coming to learn how loud 495 is, and that's our sound barrier. So, yeah, it's pretty sad.
I want to offer something on the time frame concern, because I think it's very important. The July 4th deadline is important with respect to being able to access the federal incentives. However, it doesn't mean that the project needs to begin construction on site at that point. There's nuance there depending on the system size. If we did the 3 megawatt system, if folks were behind that, we would need to have on-site construction. But largely, let's just use the 1.5 megawatt system for the sake of the conversation. If we're able to what's called safe harbor the federal tax credit, that gives us a 4-year window to adjust design, to do additional studies on whether we can get permitting to bury the conduit. It doesn't mean that the land changes in July or necessarily even this calendar year. So there's definitely more work to do on the specifics. And these are really helpful pieces of feedback that we very much are taking into consideration. Adjacent property values, what your site and lived experience is going to be like. So it's very much informing the perspective. I just want to, caution or relate as a resident that even though I'm not adjacent to this property, there are very comparable scenarios where I live over the years. And these are very valid concerns to be raising, and we're going to try and address them in conversation as best as possible along the way.
I think a 30% opportunity cost is like worthwhile to like do the planning correctly and come to us with like a full proposal and say, hey, here's exactly what we're doing. I'd gladly have my taxes go up to have a full form plan and say, yeah, maybe we missed out on 30%. You know what? We're not going to approve this too soon. We're going to do it right. We're going to make sure that everyone's happy. And then if it's a little more expensive, if we're looking at the long-term view of this, then I don't think that is that big of a deal.
Yes, you keep referring to a July date. Again, I came in late. I apologize. What is the July 2nd date?
There's a federal tax incentive in place right now that would fund 30% of the total project costs as a tax reimbursement. And that goes away after July 4th. There's nuance to that. I won't get into the details, but basically, if you're able to what's called safe harbor, so signing a letter of intent, doing initial investment, which doesn't need to involve on-site construction, that qualifies you for that incentive and would theoretically give you 4 years to complete the project.
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is, I'm not trying to be sarcastic, and all due respect, you're willing to cut your nose off to spite your face to get the safe harbor tax without knowing what the costs are going to be, without knowing all the information for 4 years down the line. Get into what is a contract with an obligation, and we don't have all the answers. And I think as residents, we're entitled to have the answers in advance, fully informed.
And you guys are having this meeting just to have a meeting to check the box off with the abutters before we go to the town meeting. Let's face it, let's call it for what it is. You guys haven't done the work. You're doing the work internally. You know, we spent so much time developing, figuring out how to improve our commercial tax base, and we still haven't figured that piece out. And we spent millions of dollars on studies. Yet, this is in front of the planning board, ready to mark 2 properties, 2 parcels on Stowe Road as solar possible sites. Like, that's fact. Like, you guys are rushing.
Hi, I'm on the planning board, and we have been meeting about this, and we've gotten some feedback from an abutter, and we would like more feedback, and we have our public meeting, public hearing again Monday at 8. It's on Zoom. And we are addressing, so the setback is our call, right, in our bylaw. We're also considering a decibel level at the boundary of the property because of HVACs and inverters. We don't know how loud they are, so we're going to put that in place. And we'd love to get more feedback from more of the neighbors.
So my question is, so we've already done the dump, the town transfer station for a solar farm, but nothing is there. Why hasn't anything been built there?
That's a long story, but we're not able to touch that property for a long time until the DEP decided that it wasn't closed properly in the 80s, and the DEP just determined that it has to be closed properly, and that's not going to happen for a while, right, Kara?
Decided the solar, overlay district there in order, because to qualify for a green community status, and that grant has provided how much, Brian? $500,000?
$1 million, yeah, $1 million, yeah.
Because we were able to meet these criteria to have that solar overlay. Because the dump wasn't capped properly, you can see it actually in Acton off of Route 2 there. You need to do a lot more groundwork in order to be able to sink, to really fix. And you'd be fixing it into a not clean site.
I mean, is
So
there,
that's why
yeah.
we simply checked the box in order to qualify for the $1 million. And over time, we've changed HVAC systems, we've made them more efficient, we've done a lot of things in that.
Is there any state appetite to help us fix that?
Yeah.
Like, or is it like, I feel like that's the town's job, like your guys' board as a select board, to figure out like, hey, Mass, we have a problem with our landfill. We'd love to put solar in there. You guys want us to put solar in there. You probably also want us to fix our dump. Like, let's work together and come to a solution that is mutual beneficial to everyone.
There are some activities under the DPW going on to come to that point as far as if you can get any support from the state. So those are initiated, and when it happens, for sure we'll keep you posted. Just a couple of things, if I may address, and there are great questions. And are we rushing or not? From a certain perspective, I understand that it looks like we are rushing, so no question about that. If I step back also, this solar desire, electrification, and renewable energy has been around, in Harvard for many, many years. Even before I moved here, I moved 4 years ago. So at the end of the day, I'll go to a slide here, if I may. This is why I would like to share this with you is nothing will happen before or until you vote at the town meeting. Between now and then, the goal is we signed a non-binding LOI. It started further engineering work. It started the conversation with the National Grid, whether or not, how long it will take for us to interconnect. And then it's also triggering now other studies that we are all talking about, the wildlife environment. And it will also trigger as an output the design, what this is about, how it's going to work. That's what we are lining up. So our next step is, it's not just a check mark, okay, we have to meetings, we are safe. No, we are going to come back to you with the full design, because we are going to narrow down and, okay, 1.5 smaller system may be better. Before the town meeting, everything will be presented with the full design. What are the implications? Can we go and do we need 7 poles, or can we do underground? So we are on the path to make those things happen. So rushing wise, yes, we wanted to have those articles in the town meeting, and then it's one path. The other path is continue to design study and then finalize it and present it to you. So, given that, what's the best way I can define that? This type of exchange is good. It's giving us further ideas. But on the other hand, studies are already initiated. So you'll see us, doing more field trips. You'll see us putting some, markers where it might be this, that, and then we'll invite you to see what we are planning to do.
What is an LOI? Is it a
Letter of intent. Basically, we indicated that we will go to this path and we will work with SOLEC, and we gave them the authority to initiate conversation with National Grid and to see that, because they need to do on their end engineering study and to make sure that they can accept the power that we are going to be generating. So it's going to take good amount of time. We wanted to get that study generated. The other thing is we also wanted to get further engineering work done on the SOLEC side. So this letter of intent, and which is non-binding.
So, but you have to enter into a lease with SOLEC by July 2nd?
everything that we are, if we put together, if we come to that point, we are gonna put together if we decide to go CPA route, we'll, have a conditional CPA, which is gonna say that, okay, these are the things that we'll be doing in terms of it, our credit, our, what's the design is gonna be, and then how much savings we will have. And then the condition is gonna be town meeting vote on the project, and then zoning articles and the land use articles. Yes, sir.
Around, the property, the gravel pit's been the gravel pit for a long time. I know that in one of the meetings recently, when they were building the school, the new elementary school a few years ago, they moved some soil that was contaminated soil. I don't think it ended up being moved to the gravel pit, but someone thought of, let's just move it to the gravel pit. Ultimately, I don't believe it happened. That's what I thought the conclusion was. However, now knowing that the gravel pit has been in existence for a lot longer than probably most of us that have lived in town, I suspect we'll do some soil testing, to make sure that there's no contaminated soil or anything like that from an environmental standpoint. Because, if it's 50 years of moving of things that haven't been, touched, can cause problems. Okay.
I just want to reiterate a couple things. As Doug mentioned, the planning board is the first and third Monday of every month. The planning board is holding hearings every single one of those Mondays, right, on all these items. And certainly you have public communication.
April's first and fourth because of.
Oh, first and fourth. Thank you, Doug.
First and third this month.
It's not first and third in April, but it's first and third in March, and it's first and fourth in April. So you have opportunities to help shape it there. You can certainly come to select board meetings on first and third Tuesdays, where we have 2 public communication sessions. The other one is for May 2nd there, that town meeting vote, it doesn't authorize the building of anything. It says the zoning permits that to be a solar overlay district, so it could permit that. And it provides the town with the opportunity to sign a lease. And the next part of that, though, is let's say that somehow we went forward with that. You would still have an opportunity because you need permits to build that construction. So after that, you would still have more opportunities to speak up and help shape the plan at the planning board through the hearing process in order to qualify for the special permit. So I want to make sure that everyone knows this. Hopefully, please be engaged. Please help shape it. Please use your voice. We're trying to do this. I will say, I have been working with you, Brian, for more than 10 years on this particular project. So we're at a point now where a lot of different things came together. For a long time, National Grid didn't have the substation capacity to even permit us to sell electricity back. They have recognized the value of the need for more electricity, and have upgraded their systems. So a lot of different things came together. But you have a voice, and you should exercise it at every opportunity you can. And certainly, I think that part about, burying the poles is something that's very doable. The setbacks are more things that we can talk about, but you have a voice, and you should use it.
And can I just speak to that, that overlay of district vote of adding this parcel to that district? Automatically, if that gets approved, that requires that they follow the bylaw requirements, and one of those is site plan review. And at the planning board meetings, the last 1 or 2, they're talking about detailing what every question that you've brought up or related to those questions are the categories that would be required under site plan review. So if there's visible buffers or environmental studies, there's a whole long list, and we're actually using there's a solar bylaw in Massachusetts that is used as a model for communities to refer to. Every one of those items identified in that overlay district bylaw modification should be modified to address your concerns. So And I appreciate the comment about it's half-baked, but I would rather that you are involved before it gets fully designed than for us to come to you and say, here's the design, take it or leave it. I would rather have us talking about it and addressing all your concerns. And yes, as residents in this town, completely understand what you're going through being an abutter.
I have a comment related to that. There could be some issues, and you heard some here tonight, that should be addressed before the lease is signed. In other words, not the details of a site plan review, but things that really have to be embedded into the lease, which may affect Solex work, that might affect the financial picture. The model may be affected. So there's some things I think should be resolved after the lease authorization, but before a lease is signed. I think that's probably typical of a lot of your projects, but.
And I had indicated a conditional lease, and that's how I would have framed it too. I mean, I think it's a journey of discovery, right? So from National Grid's perspective, we don't know what required upgrades they're going to be. We don't know what kind of turtles are on the property. You know, we don't know what other kind of species we're going to find there, you know, and so that will inform whether we can do, you know, conduits under the dirt road. I walked down there. It was around deer hunting season. I saw the sign. I put on my vest. You know, I proceeded with caution, and but I am familiar with the site, and I can picture it, and I think that's a wise approach. So.
I have another question, if that slide with the two options. I've been around a long time. I'm not an abutter, but I've been here longer than anybody in this room on Jacob Gates, also the oldest person on Jacob. But back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a town well, potential well site right here, or approximately here. I know about it because they wanted a 400-foot diameter circle through this property, which is Enchanted Meadows property, and I was on the board for that. It had enough production to be a public water supply. The town wanted to swap land so they could get ownership of this. They were going to give us equivalent acres down here, which is soaking wet. We declined. The thing went to bed, but the wellhead's still there. It's still a potential public water supply. The other thing is this is gravel pit. Gravel percolates very quickly without the benefit of vegetation filtering. And that's probably why this production of this well was so high. Anything that goes on in here will percolate into the groundwater much quicker than the wetland percolation. It's basically raw earth, gravel. It's an old lake bed. Just want you to know about that. And I don't know if there's enough older people around town that remember that problem back in the late 70s. The other thing is while I'm up here, this is fairly steep drop off here. They removed gravel, they got down here, and I guess they gave up. It seems to make more sense to move this plan closer to Stowe Road, away from the shade that's going to be cast by the higher ground, the higher trees in this area. Just the thought, maybe it's not rectangular, it might have an odd shape, but get it closer to that area. And while I'm up here, how do you manage vegetation?
So, I mean, vegetation within the fenced area is typically mowed once or twice a year. And there's also like pollinators that we use for, you know, bees. The state actually incentivizes, you know, pollination for bees and wildlife. So there's a a grass seed mixture now. In a gravel pit, you know, the question is how that seed will take. And I don't know the answer to that one yet, but.
Yeah, these are details. I'm just concerned that anything that goes on this property is going to go into the ground very quickly. And all the wells around here, I'm sure, are getting some of that water because it's so close. You know, we're down in a hole down here in a way. So we're picking up water very deeply, but it's probably coming from this gravel area or the wetlands around it. My background in engineering and geotechnical engineering, geohydrologist, I had one class in that, enough to know how complicated something like this is. So just a little bit of information to consider the history of this thing. You know, we went through one case where the DPW was moving wood chips, piling it up. One of the butters complained because it was just steaming, cooking away, potential of spontaneous combustion. There's asphalt laying around there that should be removed because it's contaminated. While I'm up here, has the new DPW chief looked at the site and said, no, we don't need it anymore, we're done with it? Has that happened? So many DPW chiefs have said no in the past, but.
No, they don't need it.
Thanks, Pete. So my questions are kind of practical about you know, the immediate area here. For one, I'm interested in whether the environmental investigations that are going to be done are going to cover that groundwater, that type of groundwater assessment, and whether there would be limits that would, you know, help to preclude anything that might, you know, cause any issues with the groundwater, for one. But also, I don't have a very good sense of, in practical terms, what this environment is going to be like. So I'm hearing some details. I heard no lights. I think I heard fences around the entire perimeter. But I would love to get more of a clear picture of what the actual environment's going to be like, and then also what kind of activity that we would expect in that area during construction, and then also on an ongoing basis afterwards.
So I can provide some probably limited details now. I mean, it's the racking structure itself is probably 8 to 10 feet high. So for the houses that abut that property, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're high enough on that ridge that from the horizon line, certainly this would be well below that horizon line. The idea is that there would also be a tree buffer between the homes there and certainly the height of the solar modules. So that's one aspect of it. I mean, it's intended to be a low impact use for the site, and I think that's one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's one of the things that's attractive to Harvard about this site for solar is it's just low impact. In terms of the noise, you know, the equipment that we have on site is low. We're not firing up diesel generators or anything else. It's for the inverters and the transformers that might have a hum. But to the planning board, you know, there can be, you know, decibel ratings on the side of the project, and that would in turn define where we put our equipment.
Do you have a sense of the decibels of the equipment that you're planning?
I don't right now from the side of the, I mean, I could get that to you in terms of the spec sheets, but typically that gear is located more centrally located and further from the property lines. I do know that.
Myron, just
Yep.
one quick thing here, that what will commit is by the next information session, we will address these questions and then come up with as much specs as we can provide you with. The other thing, just you know, what the slide you talk about how you deal with the traffic control. So there is going to be a construction management plan as a part of the contract. and it will, what are the track routes, what are the working hours, between what time and what time, what are the dust control measures, road protection requirements, during and the post and after the decommissioning. So these are all going to be part of the plans, which will be part of the contractual agreement that they typically do.
Yep.
But those are good details that I commit to you by the next session we'll bring as much detail as we can. And there's one more question that you have been so patiently waiting. I really apologize.
No, I applaud the energy people for trying to do solar and that. It sounds to me like there is still an appetite for that at the dump. And so I would just encourage really reconsidering that potential versus taking what is now near abutting conservation and a lot of wildlife that lives back there. I also wanted to inquire, where else potentially could we put solar panels that maybe would have less impact on wildlife? Is putting solar panels over a parking lot at the school? I know it has a different footprint, but that's why I was kind of inquiring about the size of the panels and potential technology. Are we buying a panel that's, if there's a cost from highest to lowest, we're buying a medium cost panel that would provide, a rate at a lower opportunity than maybe a higher cost panel that would provide more energy. And so if a smaller footprint could do the same thing with a better panel over a parking lot, or what other opportunities could there be instead of having this impact on this particular area with wildlife and that consideration?
Do you want to address the panel?
Well,
question?
yeah, I can speak to the technology. It just has to do with the goals and objectives of the town. So a smaller area, some of the canopy sites that we have taken a look at, there's an opportunity there, but there's also a scale of economy. So a smaller canopy could be almost in some ways as expensive as your current energy. So if part of what you're going for is savings, then that comes into the equation. The other piece of the equation is trying to hit overall town objectives, and I can't speak to that as well, but that's one of the core goals as well. So when you take the available sites, the economic objectives, and the available land, that's part of the equation, I guess.
Right. Can I just add to that? And we've been talking about this for a long time, is where are we going to put solar? And the one site the most significant site that remains is Bromfield School. And we talked about during the elementary school project of putting canopies there. It was a cost issue. There was a bad timing for that. And that would be great, I think, to make that happen at some point. There's complexities with the Bromfield School because there's multiple roofs and they all have to have a new roof. You can't put it on at the end of life. And there's structural issues. But all of that, different complexities, yes. But sure, and we're not giving up on that either, just to address your question.
Brian, if I may add one more thing. It's a very good question, but I think from town point of view, we are not looking really just one solar project. If you look at, this is going to be ideally one of the others that will come after this. And the others, again, the HIAC is very mindful looking at all the opportunities, any new development going on. Why don't we really put a solar to that? Or, if a given, we are talking about transfer station, can we put something over there? So there, I think my message is we are going to looking at all the other opportunities after that. And this is one opportunity and happens to be next to your property.
Yeah, and
If you did the 3 megawatt and you're meeting the entire town's energy needs, then you would never look anywhere else because there's no.
No, if you look at this is for the municipal, okay, only municipal demand that we are trying to cover. And
But the biggest thing about solar is the transport. So for it is to have something that is then transported to their house. Like, if you could, I think you would prefer for every building municipal to have their own solar on the roof, because then you'd have all the transport and storage costs. So like, I don't necessarily think it's in the town's best interest to provide solar to all the residents, as it would be to maybe make a rebate or something available for them on taxes to put it on their own house instead.
I think, municipal versus residential needs are, as you indicated, quite different. So our goal is how can we mitigate the municipal demand and the costs associated with it. So again, this is one of the many projects the town and the HIAC are thinking about. To your point, can we put solar at every house? Can we put a storage? These are all great. Or any new building that we come up with for the municipal, for sure, we'll look at how can we make it with solar from get-go.
Yeah, maybe a crazy question, because then I haven't lived here since 2020, but it seems like at some point in time, the high school, Bromfield School is going to have to be replaced. And I don't know, maybe that's next year, maybe it's 5 years, but when it gets replaced, could the town meet all of their energy needs by putting solar panels on a new Bromfield School as opposed to retrofitting an existing one?
It would be significant, but I don't think it would cover the town's use, no. But that's a,
It's
yeah.
a crazy hypothetical, but like the 1.5 megawatt or significant.
I don't know, do you have any sense for that? If you look at the if you compare it to the elementary school, it's what is it, 230 kilowatts for the elementary school. So, yeah.
So maybe like you're maybe pushing a megawatt?
Maybe.
Probably not. Some of like the big, huge, city schools, it would be much bigger. Maybe you'd get up that much, but.
Lexington, the new Lexington High School, like what that's going to do for solar? Do you have any idea like what it's going to generate?
I don't know specifically. It is a big project, though.
Yeah, it's a $100 million school, isn't crazy?
Yeah, it's an $800 million school, I think. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about what you guys were talking about in the school. Logan Express Framingham, when they had to remodel and do their floors upward for the parking deck, they covered the entire building with solar panels, vertical, on the building. And maybe that's a thought. Go vertical on some existing structures where it's appropriate. This is not my area, but I'm just throwing that kind of thought out there. Okay, could we go back to your calendar, please? Okay, so my question is if spring of 2026, I feel like we're here, but we as residents would like to have more information, and there's a lot of unanswered questions, that how solid is this calendar? Is that like everything has to happen May 2nd, boom, do or die day, and because you want to make that July 2nd date? Or you guys going to really consider the reality and say, well, we do need more time. We're going to push this out further. We're going to take more time. We're going to find out all the answers. We're going to consider more options and the impacts and the different questions that we have. And one other point, if this is like a 20-year lease, then what's the game plan? Why would you do all of this for 20 years and then say, okay, town, here's your mess? I'm not certain, like what happens at the end of the lease for the town, if the town is not going to be, is going to be responsible at that point in time for the facility. Is it out of its life for all of the equipment?
Well, so just a couple different points there. So one is just the end of the term, we're obligated to remove the system. So to restore the land back to pre-solar conditions. So that's the default position in the lease. If the town wanted to extend it, or if they wanted to buy the system, they could. The panels are still going to be generating at the end of that term. But just our obligation and bonded is to have the system removed at the end of the term. So that's, from the town's perspective, it's a way to receive a meaningful revenue and have optionality to preserve land over time. That's it. And in 20 years, you see what.
You consider the construction preserving land?
You're talking about preventing construction of
Do
other,
you consider
other buildings?
the construction of all of that preserving land?
So at the end of the
I'm
term.
asking you a question. Do you consider?
Yes, because over the term, it's removable. I mean, so the materials, the racking that Pete was talking about, that go into the ground, can literally just be pulled up. So we're not doing, it's not like a.
You don't consider it invasive for the animals, for the natural habitat that's there now?
I think certainly in the fenced-in area, it would, it's a structure there that doesn't exist now. But at the end of the term, it restores the land back to its pre-solar state. So the fence goes away, the mods go away, the racking goes away, and you have a gravel pit that you can decide how to deploy it.
Gravel pit than what it started with, right? If you go into 33.1 or 3.0 milliwatts, I mean, you can't restore a habitat back to its natural state after you've gone in and raped and pillaged it, if you want to say. I mean, you're using bulldozers and leveling it off and moving it. There's just no way that you can restore that land to its natural habitat. So I think that would be an absolute waste of energy and money if the town would then abandon this and you would decommission it. I mean, there has to be some consideration that it'll be there permanently if people are going to go to all this expense, emotional expense of having that thing in our backyard.
So
I don't think that's an option at all.
My comment doesn't discount the significance of the emotional impact and the practicalities on the ground. I live on Mill Road, and Pin Hill, which is right behind my house, was a quarry. The entire hillside, I mean, not to mention the fact that the entire forested land of the Northeast was clear-cut, but the specific land on Pin Hill was a quarry. Massive extraction processes next to a mill. There's still some remnants of it. All of the animals that we've talked about as being present in the gravel pit are in abundance on that parcel. So when we're talking about time horizons, yes, if a project moves forward, there's a fenced off area, there are solar panels on stilts for a period of time, but long horizon, there is very much a possibility of wildlife going back to that land in abundance. So, and, in the duration of the project, the potential for pollinators and so forth on the actual land itself.
And to address your other point, which I sincerely agree with that, okay, after all this motions we are going through 20 years later, why should we just take it out? Potentially we can use. So we will have the opportunity, at that point we can make a decision that do we want to continue generating the electricity? It's going to be, again, decision about, okay, what is the state of the gear that, on the gravel pit? Do we need to replace it? So there are some considerations, but contractually, we'll have a couple of things. One is, contractually, at the end of it, we say, yes, we are going to remove it. Our vendor will remove that. And then we'll also have an option that to say, like we said, at one point we can buy the whole system. Maybe 20 years later, we will be able to buy it at a very low price. Then we'll say we'll continue, we'll replace it. So we will have the options at that point. There was one more hand.
So I also saw on the town warrant, there's also a plan to extend the solar overlay district to 33 acres on the other side. So is there a potential that this all of a sudden, in some undeterminate time, becomes a 40-acre solar farm with that other land that is also now going to be part of the solar overlay district? Because I was not aware that we were actually also talking about adding that other parcel until I saw it today.
It's not on the map, but you are correct. It is currently part of the warrant articles. And thinking about it is like, you indicated, is this the only step? And we might be able to come up with additional ideas or concepts, and it might be, municipal land again that we might be able to utilize it. So at this point, we don't have any specific project initiated. It is more like, okay, you know what, this might be a good idea. Let's get that zoning done at this point as well. But no project identified.
I sense that we're winding down, but I have one question. Last week, there was a front page article in the Globe about Moss Landing, California, where the battery blew up, all kinds of contamination. The local fire department was not able to stop it or control it. They had to let it burn out. It contaminated nearby wetlands with, I guess, heavy metals or other toxic material. I know the risk is low, but I think the fire department and fire chief ought to be brought in at some point. Let's not wait till the site plan review. Let's do that now. See what they say about it. What they would do coming all the way out the Stowe Road, down the gravel pit road to put a battery fire out or whatever. I'm sure they have some guidance on that. Has the fire chief been brought in yet?
I can't speak to that exact technology, but I can say that when you do hear about those, fires or thermal events on the news, a lot of that is the earlier technology. So a lot of the technology changes you essentially have the container with fire suppression within the container, and the type of technology now is designed to smolder as opposed to explode. So, I mean, the risk is low, but the technology, there was a time when people were concerned about their cell phones blowing up in their pockets, and that's been mitigated over time. So I think I see those stories and they're scary, so.
I'm just saying, bring in the fire chief now and to see what he thinks.
We have not engaged the fire chief, but we will.
We had initial conversations, directional, but for sure fire chief and DPW will be in the loop. And not just the technology, but much better, our state has very strict rules of engagement. So everything we do, especially when it comes to battery, will be based on the associated MGLs and all the checks and balances that will be put in place. And also, mind you that if we decide to go with 1.5 megawatt, we don't have the requirement to have a battery option with that. But 3 megawatt state requires a battery storage installed with that. Yes, ma'am.
So I very much like the idea of the parking lot. There's a huge solar array down in Boxborough. There's an industrial complex, and it's this huge parking lot. I go there to train my dogs a lot, and so I see it. And, I mean, that's just a wonderful thing to reuse a parking lot like that. And what they're doing in Japan now and making these gardens on top, it's just... There's just so many different things that you can do as opposed to putting it in the middle of a wildlife habitat, right? So number two, in terms of doing the transfer station, have you been working with the solid waste people at DEP, the Central Regional Office, or is it within the 21E? Is there environmental hazardous material cleanup that needs to be done, or you just need to solidify the sides of the dump?
You're spot on. There is current issues. Mass DEP has come to the town of Harvard. They have been studying what the environmental issues are there. One of our chief concerns is that the town itself would be on the hook for the improper capping of that dump area, and that we would be responsible for the cleanup. So that would come first and foremost. They're still going through their studies. They came to us probably about, I don't know, a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, so we're still waiting for them to issue their final report. And that does make it a challenge with respect to then being on the hook to clean it up and then be able to install the solar. At the time that was designated as the solar overlay district, it was quite literally to check a box to qualify for as green communities, and we had nowhere else to go, and we knew it was municipal, and we could say, what is it, the 9 acres at the dump will be, used for this. But we're waiting on DEP, but we do think that, we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that for the best on that we, they figure out some way that not to make the town entirely responsible for the cost. That's where we're at. And I don't know the end date either. They won't tell us when they're going to complete their study. The town owns the 9 acres. Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yep. Yeah, but so far it has, yeah, you're right. And so far we haven't seen that, but we have not seen the final report either. We haven't, because they haven't given us the final report of what the issue areas are, what the problems are, and what we need to do to mitigate that or remedy that. So that's a problem. Thank you.
So looks like we are slowing down here. With that, first of all, thank you so much. These are very good questions. Some of it we have been thinking, some of it new. And as I indicated before, we'll come to the next information session with answers to some of your questions that, from some details that you wanted to see. In the meantime, please reach out to us. You can find my email on the town website. Email to me anything, good, bad, ugly. I'm all ears. And as Kara mentioned that, planning board is a good venue to do that. Come to our select board meetings, please, during our public sessions. And the other thing is we do have certain scheduled select board coffee get-together. And the next one is this Thursday at 10 a.m. at the general store. And it's going to be Kara and I will be having coffee. So please think through this, come there, have some coffee with us, and give us more feedback.
You're doing a planning board meeting at the general store?
No, this is select board social hour. So just two of us, Yeah, Monday at 7, planning board meeting.
And you know what, go to the town website and you check the calendar, and it will tell you all the public meetings that are going on. You click on it, you download the agenda, and then you click on the Zoom link, and you'll be able to be live in the meeting. And there are 2 periods, like our select board, there's 2 periods of public communication at the top of the hour and the bottom of the hour. Planning board has them mostly at the top of the hour. So you're welcome to.
So do you provide option for public comment for people that can't make these meetings?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. You can email the 5 select board people, their email is on the town website, the same with the planning board. List your concerns.
Absolutely.
I have a question procedurally. So procedurally, we have voiced our concerns. You guys' job is to answer our concerns. What happens after that?
You go to town meeting.
Then everybody gets to vote, or the select board is voting?
No, it's you.
Okay.
All of you.
Okay.
The whole town.
Okay.
So it's 10 a.m. It's 10 a.m. May 2nd. I don't know what number this is, but usually the planning board article
But, you know, for us to get back to you with answers, it's going to be iterative process. We'll provide answers, get more feedback, and we'll continuously get back.
I don't know if I need the mic, but is there an opportunity for the committee to host a site walk with folks so that people can actually see what's being discussed?
Yes, we are thinking about that. Just we were waiting for the snow melt a little, so, but the short answer is yes.
I made a bunch of tracks on my dog, so we probably can walk that down with my snowshoes.
It is. Yeah, the next information session is
25th, right?
25th Wednesday, and then April 16th Thursday. So those are the upcoming, and we posted those on the website. And like tonight's session, we will live stream it. If you cannot make it physically, it's a one-way stream, but you can still, you know, stop by and watch that session. And this video will be available, and when I go home, I'll watch it. So,
And then for a site walk,
Recorded and for.
on the site walk, should we target early April then? After the second
so
session?
why don't we make a call on it? Because we need a couple of people to be there, you know, just to make sure that we'll do it right. But early April is a good target.
Very good. Any other comment?
Well, thank you so much, everyone. We really
you very much.
appreciate it, and we'll talk again.